Hey,
John Ko.
Brian Solis.
Here we are, another week. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Intersections, your source for awesomeness every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. We have some really awesome guests today. One is a longtime friend and also an industry leader in so many fronts. And our second guests are. This is a personal geek out moment for me in terms of the home cooking revolution, in terms of smart tech, kitchen appliances, all things IoT. So can't wait to get into that one as well. So without further ado, let me just give the official welcome, since our first guest is backstage and I think in a hotel lobby. We'll soon see. But let's just jump right in. So welcome to Intersections. This is a very special time in our week where we get to spend time with you, with incredible people that are doing incredible things all around the world. Intersections is our weekly conversational jam session that dives deep into the intersections among technology, innovation, culture, and ideas. But more so, it's a community. It's a community that you're part of. We all learn, grow, and unlearn together. In fact, we bring these diverse personalities and worldviews together in service of greater understanding and unlearning. So please do share with us where you're tuning in from. Share with us your questions, your observations. We want you to be part of the show as well, and we'll do our best to feature everything live and get your questions and comments to each of our guests. My co-host and co-founder, John Ko, whom The Economist has called Mr. Creativity and a serial innovator. He's so many things: thought leader, entrepreneur, advisor, master musician, teacher, author. He's taught at Harvard Business School. He's served as visiting faculty at MIT Media Lab in Stanford. In fact, we may or may not have one of his students on the show today. We will learn soon enough. He's also a Tony-nominated producer of film and stage, and wrote the best-selling book Jamming: The Art and Discipline of Business Creativity, among many other things as well. John writes incredible, provocative thought pieces at Forbes and other sites. So make sure you follow John on Twitter and LinkedIn and his Forbes column. John, welcome to Intersections.
Hey, Brian, thanks so much. So it's a pleasure to return the favor by introducing you. You're my colleague and partner in both the learning and the unlearning process when it comes to matters pertaining to innovation, technology, culture, design, and so much more. Brian Solis has been around in the digital arena before digital was actually a thing, and has made invaluable connections, both practical and conceptual, between the digital domain and marketing, social media, culture building, communications, organizational transformation, and innovation, and is a multimedia phenomenon with books and other internet-related media properties and keynote speeches galore. And with all of that, has also a day job, which is global evangelist for innovation at Salesforce. So here we are, the innovation twins.
The innovation twins, and I can see the resemblance. It's right there.
Happy faces.
Well, on that note, let's just jump right in, because we're like 10 minutes into this episode, and Ray is someone we both know, someone we both admire. Ray, welcome. John, should I do the intro, or do you want to do the formal intro?
Why don't you go ahead? I'll do our colleagues from Bravo.
All right, sounds great. Well, Ray is the CEO of Silicon Valley-based Constellation Research. He's the co-host of Disrupt TV, a show that actually I'm a big fan of. And that show,
yeah, me too.
That's a big deal, that show. I think it attracts something, or averages something like 50,000 views per episode. And it is where I go to get my information as well in the industry. But Ray's also a longtime friend, and he's the author of a brand new book called Everybody Wants to Rule the World: Surviving and Thriving in a World of Digital Giants. Ray, welcome to Intersections.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me. I'm glad the book showed up in postal mail. It actually arrived. That's amazing.
Absolutely. It's not only that, the rare inscribed version, which means
yes.
A premium on eBay.
Oh, great. I'll know where you'll be going afterwards.
Yeah, if it's missing a page, we'll know who it is. Hey, I got something for you, Ray.
Kurt Smith.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, we've got to bring in your soundtrack, and also it wouldn't be a complete if we didn't have. There it is, your book and the soundtrack playing live. Well, Ray, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the show, and you have been on essentially a live book tour all around the country. Where you joining us in from today, Ray?
We're in stop 19 of our book tour here in Cary, North Carolina, and that starts August 17th. It's going to be at the Umstead Hotel. We've been doing small formats, getting 20, 25 people together for lunch, 40 to 50 people if you're doing something else, and a little bit of the small formats, and it's been working out really well. So it's just fun watching people light up, seeing people in 4D. You know, it's amazing. So
yeah, I'm almost have to get reacquainted with what that feels like. Although I did have the pleasure to see you on, I think, a non-official stop in Southern California a few weeks back, which was awesome. In fact, that might have been one of my first sort of business get-togethers.
it was a Leonard's social media reunion, I think. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Although you were my first dinner too, as well, at your home during COVID. So that was incredible milestones. So Ray, let's talk about. Let's just jump right in. Let's talk about the new book, because this is something I know you've been working on for quite a while, and this is a pretty big deal. And the fact that you're out on a book tour is awesome. So. Let's go to the inspiration of this, because you're for those who I don't even bother saying. I was going to say for those who don't know who Ray is, but everybody knows who Ray is. So, you know, for those interested in terms of like understanding all of the research and all of the influence that he's had in the enterprise technology space over the years, you know, this is something that isn't a report. One of the many reports that you've published in the industry. This is actually a book that's going to teach businesses how to compete in this new era. And so I'd love to hear, you know, especially in this world where COVID has transformed so many things, including digital transformation itself. Let's go right to the source of what inspired this book, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it's 2018. Companies who've been doing digital transformation, we've been talking to them. We're trying to figure out what's working, what's not, right? They're doing digital transformation. They got digital businesses. They think they've got a digital channel that works. They've thought about digital business models, but they're not sure, and they're wondering why they're failing and why they're getting their butts kicked, and we can't figure it out either. And then COVID rolls around, and we suddenly realize, okay, they kind of had a digital channel, now it's their only channel, so let's see how that works. And we suddenly looking at, hey, does digital monetization work? Ads, search, goods, services, membership, subscriptions. And they're like, oh my God, we're so far behind. What happened? And so the question really is, what's going on? Now, we start by looking at one of the poster childs for digital transformation. One of my favorite companies is Domino's Pizza, right? And Domino's, by all means, has kicked butt, right? There are 17 different ways to order the pizza. You can do it on Alexa. You know, you can track the pizza from the time it's been ordered to the oven to 10 minutes to 5 minutes to a minute from your door, right? You can even take a picture of the pizza, send it to your AI bot, and they'll tell you the quality of the pizza and the franchisee. So by all means, they kicked ass. They won. They're like the leaders. But here's the challenge. During the pandemic, you know, I don't know, Brian, John, how often do you guys order pizza? Is it like once a week? Not even Domino's. Once every 2 weeks? Maybe once a month? Or did you order more from food delivery services like DoorDash and Uber and Postmates, right? So it turned out that during the pandemic, 5 things happened that digital giants do really well for the food delivery apps, and it's a lesson learned for everybody else. 1, customer account control disintermediation. So the food delivery apps were like, oh, hey, we can help you out, small business. We know we can get you their last mile delivery. Don't even worry about it. So, okay, they partnered up with them. And what really happened was they transferred their customers to the food delivery app folks. And suddenly, right, instead of having 100 or thousands of customers that a small business would have, these companies built massive networks of customers in the millions, right? So not only did they build massive networks of customers, they took over customer account control. You put your payment information, you started ordering from them first, you put your transaction data, and they started to build businesses on that data. And so they built their own and competed against that business with data, and they could figure it out, hey, John, in your zip code, people like Italian food more than they like Korean. Over where you are, Brian, they like Thai food better than they like Vietnamese. So, we're going to monetize that. We're going to build a ghost kitchen where we can. That kind of makes sense, right? And then they started figuring out not only how to compete with that data, they figured out how to use that for digital monetization. So ads, search, services, goods, membership, subscriptions. And then these companies could lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and none of the shareholders would care because they're trying to get to escape velocity. They're allowed to think long term. They're allowed to expand their networks designed for growth. This is how the digital giants came into play. And so now companies like, Domino's Pizza, successful, done really well, great digital transformation story, are up against food delivery apps, which have more frequency, more customers, bigger network, compete on that data, and they're not on an even playing field. And how did that happen, right? So what do you do if you're Domino's Pizza, right? You create this kind of scenario. And so Domino's, right, they're a legacy company that got digital right. But what do you do? How do you change that? Well, at some point, they may go out and actually build a company called Delivered by Domino's that takes advantage of their capability of a great ordering system, a great tracking system, a great logistics, partner up with some other companies to help small businesses compete against these digital giants. Right. And so we're going to see evolutions and changes like that all throughout, as we see these digital giants get built.
Yeah, I mean, that setup right there is basically, any legacy organization is facing this right now. And then the thing that is really interesting too is that you have these digital giants, whether they are giants or giants in their emergent nature, like let's just say the DoorDashes of the world, who also are now facing disruption. And so we're seeing, for example, now knowing that Domino's is going to make a move, the DoorDashes have to figure out, well, we don't have a loyalty program. We have essentially on a whim when someone's hungry, that's basically it. But we're not activating these apps. And one of the things that I think is a real opportunity here is thinking differently then about what I call the digital narcissist, which is today's consumer who has whatever they want on demand. They want it personalized, they want it connected, they want it fast, and that is essentially that's an infrastructure that most legacy or incumbent organizations just aren't suited to dial into. So in your work, because I know everybody's as you're working with everybody around the world in terms of not just digitally transforming, but embracing digital business model innovation, what are some of the challenges that you're having to break through, and how does this book help them?
Yeah, so one of the big challenges folks have to do is they have to find their largest network. They don't know what that is. Is it memberships? Is it subscriptions? Is it devices? The second thing is really around the governance aspect, getting the boards to understand how do you make that change, right? What do you actually have to do? What is that requirement? And how do you actually create these change catalysts, right? You actually have to have those in place in order to be successful. And most boards aren't ready to do the long-term thinking. In fact, this is what started the conversation. Most companies are stacked, and they're stacked against their management teams. The boards are actually competing against the management teams by stripping away the cash in short-term buybacks, mergers and acquisitions, dividends and payments. And what that's doing is creating an environment where they have no money to fund innovation, but they're treated as cash cows. And what's actually happening is even worse than that, is the same board members are taking that cash out and creating the next competitor to go hedge their bets against the company they took the cash from. And so that's been happening for a while. And so it's a question of, can you convince the board to say, hey, look, the better bet is on us. We have the better network. We have the better infrastructure. We have the ability to outbeat another company. And that's going to be the hardest part inside of organizations to make that happen. But then the third thing is a little bit different. And the third thing is really thinking and redesigning how you look at these markets. Companies go through life cycles, right? They start out with an awesome mission. They get the best team possible. They get the best product offering. They reach out into markets, and then they go public and all goes crap, right? Oh, profit per employee, right? Profit per sale, revenue per employee, and they forget what their mission is. And that's why these change catalysts are so important, right? When you got the change class, you have to rethink how you can take a company and change its ownership structure, change its mission, think bigger than that mission, apply new sets of technologies. And then, of course, instead of competing in markets like, oh, let's go into North America or let's go into APAC, right? It's about winning across the data value chains. These data value chains are so important because what you're competing against in these digital giants is you're creating this 100-year platform we call data-driven digital network. These DDDNs are the foundation of your ability to make better decisions, use information, build the tribal knowledge. And that's what's driving this. And if you have that ability to build what we call that business graph, the intersection between a customer, supplier, partner, or an employee with an object like an invoice or a request or an order or an incident, and you can study those interactions over time, over the weather, over what part of the journey you're in, even their sentiment, you now have the ability to build that intelligence inside the organization and to start learning from it and creating a competitive moat. And that's where organizations are trying to get to. And that's what the digital giants have done an amazing job with, is being able to use that data and achieve what we call data supremacy.
Wow. I mean, John, I'm going to have to turn it over to you because of time, but I want to dive more into this data centricity. But John, over to you.
With Ray. Ray. So you painted a picture. One of the parts of the book that I found most intriguing was the forward projection into a world in which massive consolidation has occurred because of the duopoly phenomenon and so on. And it reminded me eerily of some of William Gibson's prophetic writings way back in the 80s, where, companies were so large and so hyper competitive that they would actually fight little guerrilla skirmishes to secure the services of a talented person or a piece of IP and so on. And I guess I'm curious to know if you are really thinking that is a likely scenario. And if so, what happens to well, there are two things. One is what happens to entrepreneurship, because you also said, well, we're going to have all these green shoots of entrepreneurial activity, or we need them. And, this whole kind of, we're going to disintermediate the oligopolists and remediate them. I think it was Paul Sappho, actually, also back in like the 90s, who talked about disintermediation. But to do that, you need resources and you need scale. So, what makes you confident that entrepreneurship is going to thrive in this oligopolistic world? And also, you also said innovation is going to suffer. And I heard the reasons around conservatism and milking the cow, but these are big companies that have a lot of resources. So why wouldn't innovation in these kind of siloed areas, which are now very broad, still be quite robust?
It's a great point. In the history of modern capitalism, the larger the company gets, the more inefficient it gets, and it starts falling apart. You see like what happened to AT&T towards the end. You see what's happened to Xerox towards the end. You've seen what happened to these large, successful companies that were seen as innovative, right? We've even seen the demise of GE over time, right? And so the question is like, how do these perform? But let's take an interesting stat here. In 2017, the combined value of the existing digital giants, and we're talking like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, or, Netflix, Google plus Microsoft, was $2 trillion. Do you know what the combined market cap today is? It's 10 trillion. They quintupled. This has never, ever happened in the history of capitalism, where large companies like this are growing at 40, 50x consistently. This is what we call extreme capitalism. They've managed to pull this off. It is next to impossible. But here's the challenge, right? And we're kind of hinting as to what happens to these companies and how do we keep the competition. Think about cost-benefit analysis to society. Have your prices gone up? No, actually, they've gone down. Has innovation been spurred? Actually, no. We can do so much more with what they've been able to provide. It's kind of impressive. Are you seeing more startups and more people in the ecosystem? Actually, in fact, these ecosystems are so efficient that you have opportunities to make money at all different levels of the ecosystem, but you can't take out the owner of the ecosystem, right? Think of the App Store and the Google Play part. And has society been injured or harmed? Okay, so that part is actually interesting. Maybe. Right? Maybe. But we haven't got to the point where these folks are like buying companies to kill them, driving up prices, reducing your number of choices so you don't have the capability to do things that you want to do. Yeah, we might have a little freedom of speech suppression depending where you sit on that equation. But there hasn't been a big issue with them. And they're still growing and they're still hungry and they're still building. Now, once that happens, though, that's when the antitrust occurs. And that's when we're going to see those types of discussions come about. And they should, right? And we can do a couple things to solve that. One, we can, and you've heard this before, John and Brian, you know this, we can make your personal information, your DNA, your genomics, a property right? You buy a home, you have a land title. You have an idea, you have IP and patents and trademarks, right? Well, in the digital world, these companies have made money off of your data more than anything else. And now they need consent for it, right? And they need consent. And once they have your consent, you can determine the value exchange. But then the third piece could kick in, which is really interesting, is what we call data portability. We had number portability. Remember, like you couldn't switch cell phone carriers and keep your number, right? Well, this is a little bit deeper. This is, you want to switch from Facebook to no-name social media company that just started. Facebook has to give up all the data, like your metadata, your contacts, your interactions, your timeline, your history. That becomes standardized and another player can jump in. And so we may see things like that pop up to create even and fair playing fields. But today, the innovation is there. The opportunities are still there. And, you know, going back to William Gibson, I mean, we're not completely in a place where it's all the big companies, but it's strange that these big companies have done well. And we spurn brand new types of companies, Roblox, SpaceX, and Starlink, and their capability to transform that world. Robinhood is a great example. Airbnb, DoorDash, Coupang, right? GoTo, right? These are companies that are pioneering in these markets, and they're creating their own digital giants in regional areas. We just think that in North America, there's going to be 50 data value chains, not aligned by industry, right? They're going to be aligned by value chains, and 100 companies that are going to merge by 2040. And that's a very important stat. And why do we say that? Comms, media, entertainment, tech, it's the same business. It's not, I know they're different industries, but hey, look, I've got content, whether it's a video game, whether it's software, whether it's a movie, right? That content is then put into distribution channels, and then that's applied to technology platform to hit customer networks. Those four businesses all work the same. Manufacturing, retail, and distribution, same thing, same business. That convergence around data value change is going to be so important, and that's what the battle is for, and you're going to see that all across the board. But inside the book, there's something fun, John. There are $3 trillion market cap companies that you can create, and there are $100 billion unicorns. And if anybody sees them, give me a call, because I will show you how to build them. I just want 1% cut, so...
There's an interesting phenomenon at work here. I've never heard of a book that has Easter eggs before, but we're all going to have to buy the book in order to find them. You know, the companies that you cited as having this life cycle of growth and then decline are rooted more in an industrial model, you know, GE being an example. And also, I'm not sure that, you know, Jeff Immelt was my classmate at Harvard Business School, so he's obviously, you know, smart in some respects, but I'm not sure that he was thinking about this notion of a cross-industry archetypal value chain analysis the way you're describing it now. So today we've got companies like Apple and Amazon and Google that, you know, in some respects are have carved out large digital value chains that are agnostic in a way as to the business, which is why, you know, especially Amazon and others are creating new businesses as fast as they can imagine them. So what are the limiting factors for those companies when they seem to be obeying a different kind of physics?
They're not spending enough on the innovation and the tech. I'll give you a great example. Here's one of the $1 trillion market cap companies. I love smart buildings. I think smart buildings are really important. It's dynamic pricing per square feet. I can do green building certification. I can renegotiate power purchase agreements. I can do digital ad signage in those buildings, and I can do remote field service and monitoring. A lot of great reasons to do smart buildings. If one of the big leaders in commercial real estate decided to do smart buildings, right, and they say they're going to make an announcement, their CEO would say, I'm going to spend $150 million on smart buildings. We know they're blowing smoke up our butt. They're just pumping stock. There's no way. That's a $2 billion project, even if they're lucky. But imagine if they said, I'm going to do $150 million for smart buildings. I'm going to partner with someone to do it because I know I don't have the technology, I don't have the talent, and I don't have the capital. Well, imagine they sponsor the Google Cloud, Amazon, or Microsoft Azure said, look, we'll put another $150 million down. So we make $300 million for smart buildings. We get a consulting firm to join us. They'll put another $40 to $50 million as one of the operating partners. Now we got the talent. So we got the tech and the talent and some capital. We're ready to go. But we'll do something even cooler. We're going to go to the ecosystem. I'm going to go to Honeywell, ThyssenKrupp, Otis. I'm going to Johnson Controls, Schneider Electric. Say, good. You give me $10 million for 1% of the company. We're going to take a company public just focused on smart buildings and all the infrastructure and all the software designed to take this into the market and win. I just raised $500 million. What would happen on day one when I announced this joint venture startup? It's not a consortium. It's a joint venture startup. The real estate company has 10-to-1 voting class on the shares. They're going to drive this whole thing. It's benevolent dictatorship, and they're going to drive it to the end. On day one, I'm going to do a cap table raid. If you're not part of my organization, your stock in the public markets are going to drop. Institutional investors are going to come to me. Day two, the talent is all going to come to me. They're going to leave wherever you are to come and build the best thing they can. What happens on day three? The people that aren't part of my coalition, they're going to go start their own. They'll raise $300 million for theirs. I chose Google. They choose Amazon. I choose Accenture. They choose Deloitte. But when they go to the ecosystem, what happens? Nothing. The ecosystem's like, wait, I gave my last $10 million to these folks. You know what? I might give you $1 million just in case they fail. So I get first mover advantage on day one. I'll take at least 55% of the market share. Day two, these folks take 22% of the market share. Now, you mentioned duopolies here, and this is the heart of this book.
It's your term. You
mentioned duopolies. It's so important. It took 40 to 50 years for companies to become duopolies, whether you're Pizza Hut or Domino's or McDonald's or Burger King or GM or Ford or Pepsi or Coke or Visa or MasterCard. I just created a duopoly in less than 12 months. I took the tech, the talent, the innovation, the capital out of the market in less than 12 months. As Peter Thiel says, innovation's for losers. I just actually completely wiped the market out of all the capital and let's go build this stuff. And that's why these joint venture startups are important. And that's why we see 50 data value chains and 100 companies that are capable of doing that in North America, maybe 15 in Asia, maybe 10 in South America, and 25 in Europe. The Fortune 500 is about to be decimated again.
Yeah, and do you think that people that are in the strategy business are really thinking this way, or are you kind of like a prophet in the wilderness right now?
I'm definitely not a prophet. I see it happen. I'm not a prophet. And I think strategists probably get it, but they would never get paid to go do this.
Well, because it's too disruptive to their...
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like, what do you do with that set of insights? I think what you're describing is really interesting because it's kind of like a different approach to... people who have the convening power to create an ecosystem around a value chain, which is, I think, probably one of your, Easter eggs. Maybe it's lurking there in different formats. Will be able to create enormous amounts of value. And systems integration doesn't necessarily require having a lot of assets. It requires really being able to negotiate.
No, but they are one of the conveners and the people with the money. So you think Google, Microsoft, and Amazon will be allowed to get into other industries? The short answer is no. The government is going to keep them from getting into another industry. They're never allowed ever again. But they can invest in other industries. And they will have the capital to be able to go build this, to build those data pipelines. But I'll give you one more that's fun. About 4 years ago, I wanted to buy Air Canada's mileage program. You're like, Ray, what do you want a mileage program for? Kind of stupid. This is back to the loyalty conversation, Brian, you were talking about. Well, here's why it's interesting to me, right? It's tax-free, cross-border, value exchange. Mileage programs are funded a penny per mile. They're redeemed at 1.6 cents a mile. So 25,000 miles is about a $400 ticket, right? You buy magazines, it's 2 cents a mile. You might buy golf clubs, sporting equipment or jewelry. It's, 2.5 cents for a redemption. You don't lose money in a mileage program. In fact, CFOs hate it because it's a liability on the books, like vacation days. They're like, this is horrible. But they raid the piggy bank when they're in the middle of a crisis, and banks pay millions of dollars a year to airlines for their mileage, right? So it's a really cool program. You're not going to lose money, but it's not the 10 million Canadians. I love my Canadians, but it's not the 10 million Canadians that I am going after. I want access to 762 million Star Alliance members. I could create the world's biggest cryptocurrency on day one. And for those who are worried about the cookie apocalypse on day two, I have the world's biggest ad network. And by the way, here's my ESG. 2.2 billion people who are unbanked who have connection to the internet now have banking capabilities. I'll be the world's biggest banking network on day three.
Got it.
That's what I'm talking about. This is the type of ideas that are out there.
It's entrepreneurship at scale. Because entrepreneurs are always about a systems integration. Where's the idea? Where are the people? Where are the resources? Who are the resource owners? How do you pull it all together? But this is operating at a mega scale.
Let's go build this. It's there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 3 of these. I'll give you the third one later, but you guys can read the book. You guys already read the book,
Well,
but you know what the third one is. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take it offline. So listen, it kills me, but I think we have to move on. Brian, do you want to kind of close Ray out, and then we'll move on?
I do. I'm going to bring back our friends at Tears for Fears here, and the soundtrack for Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
It just reminds me of Summer, the song,
Hey, it just happens to be summer. Ray, so at the last scheduled book tour stop, I think, is in San Francisco as of now. I'm sure it's going to be continued, so I hope to see you again. On that note, though, I do want to bring you back, and I know that we are scheduling other engagements to have this conversation, but I do want to bring you back because I do want to talk about building an infrastructure within an organization that can then pursue this, because we got to talk about ownership, accountability, and who's empowered to make these things happen. It's a bold move, but I think you're the guy to help us figure it all out. So, Ray, congratulations on the launch of the new book. It's fascinating. Just looking at your endorsements page is incredible, and just the fact that you're joining us from a hotel lobby is very you. So, thank you for making time for us.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Brian. I'm so honored to be on your show. Congrats on all the success. What a wonderful show, and thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Good luck. Good
Take
luck.
it easy, Ray.
Wow. Oh man. He's
right.
just comes in and he's like,
Force of
this is
nature.
what we're gonna do, what we gotta do. And woo. All right. So John, why don't you tee up our next guest, because we are running behind and I am so excited that they're here with us.
Well, me too. So we have actually an abundance of riches, because we've got John Pleasance, who's the CEO of Brava, a company that is in the business of reinventing the process of making food, and we'll get into that, of course. And also we have Travis Ria. I'm going to probably mangle your name, but Ria might be one approach.
It's Ray.
Ray, okay. Well, I had a 50-50 chance, who's VP at Brava and seems to bring in the kind of culinary expertise with a number of culinary kudos to his name. I will also add that John has been involved in the tech media consumer area at a very high level for quite some time, was associated as EVP of Media Solutions at Samsung, interactive media at Disney, entrepreneur in social gaming, president of global publishing at EA, where no doubt he worked with my college classmate, Ben Gordon, or he worked on you, and also was a graduate of HBS 93, although I'm not sure if our paths crossed then. I was still in the faculty there, but you might have escaped my clutches. But anyway, welcome you guys to the show.
Hey, John. Thank you very much. Brian, thank you very much as well.
Yeah, welcome.
So maybe you could just give us a thumbnail on Brava and why it represents a discontinuity in the food preparation area, and then we can kind of get into the nuances. But to fill people in, so we have a basic fund of knowledge.
Yeah, sure. Travis, you want me to start, and then you can fill in a few gaps here?
Yeah, go for it, John.
Thanks for the multimedia here.
Yeah.
Well, it's good because for those folks who don't know what Brava is, at least you get a sort of a visual of this. It is I guess the category would be called a smart countertop oven, although we're about to redo our website because we're not particularly happy with it. And I think the opening line is, "This is not an oven, it's a Brava." So we sort of bristle at the categorization. It's a really innovative cooking device. It cooks with infrared and visible light. And I hope this doesn't sound like over boasting, but we think it's the biggest invention that's happened in cooking since the microwave 70 or 80 years ago. And it's because its heating elements are different. So there are 6 elements, 6 bulbs, if you will, in this device. They all run independently of each other. They can go to internal temperatures of 4,000 degrees in a tenth of a second, and they go back to 0 in a tenth of a second. So what it does is we pulse these lamps, sending off different frequencies or different color, if you will, of light, and can cook the food underneath in each of 3 zones independently of each other. So think of steak, potatoes, and broccoli on a single, what you would think of as kind of like a sheet pan, but it's not cooking them with traditional convection or hot air. It's cooking each of those things differently than the other, and they all come out quote, perfectly to your liking and to your personal settings simultaneously. So the big thing is it's really fast because it's so powerful. So it's twice as fast as any other cooking device. The food tastes amazing because it can sear like a cast iron pan. It'll cook pizza like it's coming out of a pizza oven. It retains the juices inside vegetables and meats because it's basically not cooking in hot air and drying out food. And it's very smart. It's got the equivalent of sort of the compute power of an iPhone 6 or 7 inside of it. With all of the sensors that we have, it enables you to basically walk away. It's like having a sous chef in your private kitchen. So cooking a dinner like I referenced is about as easy as making a pot of coffee. You're not tending to it, right? The machine is doing the cooking for you. So that's why we think it's a really cool thing. And we've been in market now for a couple of years. And we have a pretty rabid following, kind of almost a cult-like following of customers who really love it. And I think the reason Travis and I are so proud of the company is, it's really it helps people, right? It gives them time back at the end of the day. People, a lot of people like cooking, but cooking can also be a burden, right? And so anything that can give good, healthy food faster, easier, and consistently is kind of a liberator. Right. And so that's what most of our comments are in our community is just, gosh, Brava's really good because it's teaching my kids that, the value of cooking, or we're eating more vegetables now. Kids are asking for vegetables when they come home from school, or, on and on and on. So that's what gets us going. We start every town hall every week when we have them by reading our best customer quotes from the week and celebrating those victories. And that's what we're doing over here.
So it seems like this makes a lot of what a kitchen traditionally brings to the table redundant, right? Because like in my kitchen, I've got an oven that it's the smartest dumb oven you can get, that German technology can provide, and I have a microwave, and I have an air fryer, right? So I am interested in cooking, but it seems like all you need is a sink and the Brava, and you're in business. Or am I misreading it?
No, it's totally true. Listen, if you want to, I'll play devil's advocate on that a little bit. It is about as big as you sort of saw on the screen there, right? So it is brilliant for a meal for two, but it can cook a 6 or 7 pound chicken. You can put on 6, Whole Foods sized chicken breasts. So don't think of it. It has to cook every ingredient. I have 2 of them in my home, but we mostly 85% of the time are just using 1. But we'll be cooking chicken in the Brava because it's amazing, and then you have bread and salad, and maybe someone made a little pasta or something like that, right? So but it is a certain size, right? So if you're doing Thanksgiving dinner, it might be a little bit challenging using the Brava if all the in-laws are coming over. But yes, it can cook. Honestly, it can cook any ingredient you can get in the supermarket, and it's not going to be as good as at heating water. Like a microwave is particularly good at that because it stimulates water molecules. But basically, any other kind of vegetable or protein ingredient that you want to cook, Brava's really good at it. Travis, I'll turn it over to him. Travis has a team of chefs that he works with, and they are constantly putting out new recipes for people. It's part of the machine's constantly getting smarter, connected to the cloud. Travis, maybe you can talk a little bit about how we provide excitement around recipes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about Brava, and thanks for queuing that up, Sean, is that it gets better and better every single week. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, either until they come to our website or until they do a little bit more digging and research into Brava. And that to me is what is the benefit of the smart technology here. Like, I think it's really cool that you can look at the image of the food cooking on the touch screen. You can look at it on your phone, or you can send a recipe from your phone app to the Brava. I think that's all super cool. Mm-hmm. But I think the coolest part about it is that it gets better every week. And it's this investment that you make up front for a product that, unlike any other product in the kitchen, gets better, and we push new recipes to it every single week. And once a month, we push new software updates. And so a lot of those features that you guys were mentioning that Brava has, like the air fryer or the dehydrate feature or the custom cooks, those were never on Brava when we launched it back in November of 2018. These came online, I think, somewhere late in 2019. And so it's the first product that I can think of. You have to kind of think of it like an iPhone, and an iPhone that updates, except that this one cooks. And so we use a lot of our customer feedback to help us decide what new recipes we should try next. We rely on them to reach out to us and tell us what they want. But we can also go back and look and see what they're cooking and what's trending. I mean, we talk to them all the time. We have a very active Facebook community, I think that John was mentioning. So that close customer connection, that direct connection with the customer, I think, is really one of the greatest benefits of Brava itself, because we talk to them all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an expensive German oven or microwave or whatnot, the interaction with the company ends when you buy the unit, basically. Whereas, I mean, we had a big conversation about data-driven networks just earlier in the hour, and it would seem to me that the big data play and the kind of interaction that you have with your customer base is part of the secret sauce of how you're going to be even more successful than you are now, if I'm reading things correctly.
It is that we use that data to make the product better all the time. And so that's one of the most powerful things that we have in our sort of toolbox.
Right.
Being able to look and see what's popular and then build on top of that.
It's a lot. So it's a lot like a lot of these industries that get changed. I mean, I used to, as you mentioned, I used to be in the gaming business for 7 or 8 years, and was part of that whole transition where, when I first got to EA, games were all on discs, and our customer was Walmart and GameStop, and today, I think almost every single game in the world is connected digitally, right? You know exactly that the person you're appealing to is Sally or Jim or whoever it may be, right? You have a direct relationship. You're upselling them. You're providing them with different levels and things like that. That all started, but it's hard to imagine. But in the early 2000s, there were no smartphones and none of this was going on, right? It was just fixed media. So it's the same kind of thing happening here.
This is the famous Brava pitch person, Brian Solis here.
Wow, look at this.
So just one other question. So let's say it's 5 years in the future, you continue on this trajectory. How will you have changed the marketplace? Because I assume part of it is replacement or supplementation of what exists already in people's homes, but there are probably other markets that you're targeting. And related to that, what's your channel strategy? I must confess that I follow cool consumer technology pretty closely, and I haven't run into a Brava yet. So I'm running into it now through the horses, the mouth of the horses, plural, so to speak. What's the channel strategy? How are you getting the product out there?
Well, I'll take them in the order that you sort of presented them. So thank you for doing such a beautiful display, by the way. That really is nice what you got going there. You're hired. But we are, in terms of, I guess, let me go to the 200,000 foot level. Obviously, Travis and I are bullish on the core technology. So I guess you can take this with a tad of a grain of salt. But I think that in 20 years, the majority of ovens that people cook with will be using these powerful programmed heating elements. We good? Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure I'm not speaking over Brian. It's an industry that has not had a lot of innovation in it, so it's kind of hard. It's hard to disrupt it overnight, kind of thing. But I do think over the course of several decades, you will see this kind of everywhere. So for us, we were proud to join forces. Our company Brava was acquired by a much larger company called Middleby, public company that is in both the commercial and residential business. You may know some of their residential brands, like Viking, for example, is one of the brands. They have probably 80. We have like 80 brands in our portfolio, and you can imagine that we are probably working with a lot of our other residential brands now to get different form factors and to get this technology, which is everything from the electrical engineering, the boards, the back end cloud services, the recipe programs, the heating elements, the internal chamber designs, all of that type of stuff. We now have the benefit of working across all these brands that have a different channel strategy. So the first thing that you can imagine is, and I'm looking at your kitchen there, is that it would be really nice to have a Brava built into the wall, right? So you get it off the countertop. That can give you more size, and it just sort of aesthetically is something. So you can imagine that in the future, this technology will be both built into the wall, and you will see different sizes and form factors. There's a lot of software in here that is doing power management because we're promising the perfect cook. And so if you were to take a toaster to each of our 4 homes and have it on the same setting, the toast would probably be different colors coming out because we have different power in each of our homes. It doesn't really matter with a toaster. You just turn it to make it lighter or darker, and you kind of move on with life, and that's it. But here, you're putting salmon into it. You're putting bok choy into it. You're putting all these things, and we're saying walk away and come back, and it's going to be perfectly cooked. We have to manage and throttle that power. Power is different in all kinds of countries around the world. So right now, we are only available in Canada and the United States. But you will see another big initiative for us over the course of the next 5 years to go and expand internationally, because there's a lot of people calling from other countries asking us for Bravos, but it has different power requirements. But that's the big thrust for right now. We're not going to get it. We're going to stay with our core technology, and we're just going to change form factors, geographies, and sizes. That's kind of the roadmap for the next. Honestly, that's going to take 10 years.
Yeah, that's plenty. Sounds like that's plenty. Well, listen, what we don't have plenty of is time. So I'm going to throw over to Brian, because I know he's hankering to talk with you guys. And congratulations.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that.
I mean, John, I could have just listened to this and been content, because this is absolutely fascinating. Travis, John, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on with us. This is, as a user, what you have done for our kitchen and our family time is what on the other side of the spectrum for food. If we just think about, like, hey, if we're talking about a food in belly situation, we have all kinds of different options, and one of them being DoorDash. But what you have done is not just simplified and electrified, quite literally, the cooking process. You have actually enriched the culture of cooking, what it can mean. And Travis, you and your team, with introducing recipes that we've not seen unless we're watching Beat Bobby Flay, or expanding our palettes, but also giving us time together to do stuff in the kitchen, in today's modern time frames, but then also bringing us to the table, which is something that's really nice. And so it has transformed our food experience, especially during COVID. The Bravo has been a pillar in bringing us together around food that's better and better for you. And so with that said, though, my question that John brought out is, you guys just geeked me out in terms of what that roadmap looks like. And so I guess I'll just build upon that, which is, what are some of the things that you can talk about now that we're going to start seeing here soon, or eventually, and then in that vein, though, does it complement, or does it eventually displace the countertop solution? Love to hear your ideas and thoughts there.
Okay, great. Thanks for teeing that up. We are going to, I want to tease this a little bit. We're going to put out a new cooking engine. What I mean by that is the software inside that is running the Bravo. And it will be coming in the near future, meaning, let's just say, less than 2 months. This is a new thing coming. And effectively, we're going to triple or quadruple the amount of things you can cook. So we may have about 1,000 things right now. You're going to see that change dramatically. And it's all in this thing that we can do that nobody else can do, which is cook food, different food ingredients adjacent to each other, and cook them differently. So that's very different than, don't think sheet pan in an oven with everything at 400 degrees of hot air. Think of it as, one thing is receiving a tremendous amount of energy, the other thing is receiving much less, and all that kind of thing. So that's going to be the biggest piece of innovation. And this is directly from working with all of our, our community and our best customers, and them just wanting more flexibility, more, that just accommodate all of their personal tastes and things that they like. So we've been spending a year on this. And we're really excited about it. It's in test mode right now with our employees, right? So we're getting ready to, we're just making sure it's debugged and everything before we put it out there. But it's going to be an exponential, in enhancement in the breadth of what Bravo can do. So that's a very exciting thing that we're doing. Some things that we'll do on the roadmap, oh, by the way, we're also going to change some of the user interface on this, so that Brian, well, that you kind of go and you pick your recipe, and it kind of then tells you what to do as you go through the user interface on the touchscreen. Now you're going to have the ability to basically manipulate inside what ingredients you're actually putting on there. You'll have like menus and choices as you go through. So it's a more I think it's more intuitive, but it's also a more powerful user interface that's about to be launched. We have a lot of things in our community. We've just now put comments on recipes. We have to like put notifications behind that. That's just some day work that we have to do. We aspire over time to be doing a lot more calorie tracking, things like that, for people who want to be able to do, meal planning is another thing. You could imagine that someday we might want to do Instacart integration, so you can create shopping lists off of our app. That is not there today, but that would be something that I think a lot of our users would be super interested in. If you cook proteins, you'll know that we have a very, very, I think probably the most sophisticated thermometer in the world in our what we call a temp sensor. I will admit it's not the easiest thing to operate because it's in close quarters. When you put it, you can see it right there. It's in close quarters. That cord, there's 8 wires in that cord, and it's very sensitive to heat. I told you those bulbs get to 4,000 degrees. So you don't want that cord getting anywhere near those lamps, or it'll damage the temp sensor, right? So that's something that, while we're proud of how sophisticated it is, that's not the best part of the user interface. So we will probably be doing something over the course of the next year to address that. And there's some other fun things that we're doing, like, people love the camera. They love to be able to be in a different room and look at their food cooking on their app. But we also want to be, we're contemplating giving people more visibility in terms of how things cook. And so we've got some ideas there. That's kind of, this is sort of the near term stuff. It's just making it better, easier, more breadth of capability. That's kind of and really blowing out the community and the app and the services around that. That's like a year right there before we even get into like different form factors and stuff like that. Travis, what am I missing? I'm probably skipping a bunch of stuff.
One of the only thing I would really add on there, John, and to John's point about making it more flexible and more versatile. One of the biggest things that we did and launched in March of 2020, I believe, was being able to cook some proteins without a temp sensor.
Yeah.
So you have the option to select a time-based cook. If you don't want to fiddle with it, what we did was we analyzed the actual cook data from thousands of real cooks, and we were able to, mathematically and algorithmically figure out what that perfect cooking time was based on thousands of previous cooks. And so it's sort of giving you that functionality and that ability or the power to choose which path you want. And if you really care about that precision and you want to like perfectly nail a medium rare steak, you can use the temp sensor. And if you want to, get, I would call it like 95% of the way there to get to a medium rare steak, you can use the temp sensorless option. But it's like, if you want to get really selective and go to medium well, for instance, the temp sensor is a great thing. But we just want people to be able to cook with Brava the way that they want to, instead of us telling you how it has to work. We really have paid attention to listening to the community and trying to figure out how do we take their feedback and integrate it in a way that makes the product better and more valuable and more versatile without taking away some of that precision and the things that make Brava smart and great.
Yeah, I think what if as a user and a fan, the ability to take a recipe and precisely cook it, even for those who aren't home chefs, and have it come out, present itself, and taste like a restaurant quality meal is fantastic. But also the ability to customize beyond just a temp sensor, but also in the controls. If you want to fine tune anything, you have that ability. And then also the other thing that I think is incredibly rich here is the community itself. I have not really seen anything like it outside of the typical fanatical products that you see, like for example Apple. And I'm on the Brava community in Facebook, and it is one of the only reasons I use Facebook. But it is it is fantastic to see what others are doing, what they're sharing, what they're the library of recipes is so robust. That might be the only thing I would say negative about it, is that it's just too many awesome choices. And
that's where Chef Travis is a true celebrity, is in that community. You see the people fawning all over Travis. I think Travis has even had people in the community offer to get married to him, I think.
Chef Travis, that wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I have to say though, because I could continue to just completely fawn over everything that you've done. But I do want to leave on this final question, since we're running out of time, in that, in true Silicon Valley fashion, what I appreciate that you've done is not only transformed a lifestyle with technology, but that you've built a technology that's going to scale through other devices to continue to change that lifestyle and entire industries in the process. And so what I would love to just hear from is, whatever you can share, is what can we think of in an industry that hasn't been disrupted in a really long time, beyond the oven, that you guys are thinking about, that you can share, or whatever you'd like to take us out with. I'll leave it to you, because I know that's a question that maybe certain investors might not want revealed yet.
Just to make sure I'm understanding the question, beyond this thing that we've been talking about, this oven capability, what else could be going on in the kitchen specifically, or in the appliance industry?
Yes.
Is that the question?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think to me, the headline would be, these devices have been around forever, since mankind started cooking, and they're all need to find their place in a connected world. I've always thought, like, I've been around people who do connected things, and I think, gosh, that's really kind of stupid, right? Like, I want to be able to turn on my washer machine from work. Why? Put the clothes in and hit the button. There's no reason to be able to do that, right? So there's sort of dumb IoT, if you will, and then there's smart IoT. And in our case, for example, you can't turn the Brava on remotely, because that would be hazardous, and we don't want anybody to ever be able to hack our network and be able to turn someone's on and burn their house down or something like that, right? But the reason it does make so much sense is, and thank you for complimenting Travis on all his recipes, they're recipe programs. They're not just pictures and words of a dish. It's the code that runs the lamps, that runs the heating, and it's the code that's monitoring it and changing the way the lamps are firing dynamically as the cook is going on. That's a very smart IoT, right? And so I don't know that I need my garbage disposal to be connected, right? But there are certain things that do. Samsung's made a big push on refrigerators, and you've got some other companies out there that are trying to kind of connect across. Someday I could see it would be pretty neat if we had a stovetop, or devices that sit on a stovetop that were connected to the Brava. Right now, if I'm going to be doing pasta, the example I gave, and I'm cooking chicken, I'm going to take the chicken, I'm going to put on the pasta, I'm still managing the pasta. Well, the pasta should know, and it should turn up and down based on when the chicken's ready. So that would be connecting things across the kitchen environment. Probably see a little bit more of this in commercial, because people are running like more assembly-like processes, so you see this. But I think it's all going to be the smart, not stupid implementation of software to make things more accurate across different form factors of cooking. That would be my kind of simple answer.
Yeah,
I would add on to that and just say it's a little bit like orchestration is really what's unique to Brava, because we can control each of those lamps independently. And so I've never thought of it like this before, but you guys made me start kind of turning my wheels. It's like, if you think of the recipe program as like a piece of music, and you can either go play that piece of music on a piano by yourself, that's like the old way of cooking, or there are those pianos where you push a button and it automatically plays. That's what Brava's doing. It's playing the same piece of music. It's just automating it and orchestrating it perfectly so that it comes out harmonious and done all at the same time. And that's, I think, super powerful.
Yeah, and also the human experience too, that where you allow for the user to prep, to shop. Although I do really like the idea of Instacart. In fact, my friend of mine's Fiji Simo just became the CEO over there, and this this is a partnership that has to happen. So if you need me to make any calls, just let me know.
Well,
You're
speaking
on
of
the
that,
you're on the team already. I just seen your demo in your kitchen makes me already. You're on the team, man.
Speaking of that, I think the other area that came up that I think is well worth pursuing is the whole wellness and sort of diet planning area.
Yeah.
Not only is it a sales value prop, but it's also needed and it's unique. I'm on the advisory board of something called the Global Wellness Institute, which is the premier nonprofit that's setting standards in the wellness field. So if you ever wanted to talk with them, that's another thing we could help you with.
Oh, great! Thank you for that offer. We'll may take you up on that soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, John, on
Keto,
that note,
paleo, low carb, low calorie, weight loss, weight gain, the mind runs diet.
I put that in my article, John, and now we should probably continue on that subject too, which is the link between cooking, creativity, wellness, and family relationships, because they're all interconnected. And I think it's just a new genre of bringing to life that marriage between technology. In fact, I have technology is most magical when it's invisible, and that's really the case here. And Chef Travis, your program is. It's unprecedented. There's nothing like it, and it's almost the equivalent. If Brava's the iPhone, your recipe program is the App Store. It's just well done. So thank you very much for joining us on Intersections, and congratulations on everything.
You guys are you're too kind. I really I appreciate it, and I know you're being authentic, and there's nothing that makes us happier than hearing people who you really get it. So we're grateful. Thank you for everything you said and for everything that you do supporting us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. And just 2 words that I'll leave you with: beta program for whatever's coming next. Test user right here. And Chef Travis, if you need someone to come visit you in the kitchen, I'm your man. I'll be there.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you so much,
John. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys. Great to meet you.
Wow, what an incredible conversation today. First with Ray, bringing up the energy level and then the disruption level out of the stratosphere, and then this whole idea of the future kitchen unfolding before our eyes, or to use a pun, lighting up to 4,000 degrees in a tenth of a second before our eyes. John, as always, this is the highlight of my week.
That was fun. That was great fun. Big fun.
Now, I'm actually starting to think about what's for dinner tonight.
Yeah, I'm thinking about ordering one of those Bravas myself.
Oh, John, it's so much fun, and it's bigger. It's bigger, and for those who are watching, it's bigger than you think. You can actually feed a family with it. Yeah. Although I did like the idea of having 2. Now that's something I didn't think about. But with that said. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. We ran a little bit long today, but as you see, we needed to. Thank you to our guests. John, always thank you to you, bringing the incredible questions, and also just to the community. Thank you very much for joining us each and every week. Again, you can watch past episodes at intersectionslive.com, and we will see you next Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. Thank you so much.